the deliberations of this subcommittee. I will therefore, without a waste of time, deal with the formalities so that we can get straight to the opening officially of the meeting, having been advised that we do have the quorum. May I just check if there are apologies received?
No apologies, Chairperson.
So no apologies received. We'll then proceed as such. Honorable members and all participants on the platform, you are reminded once again about the rules on meetings convened on this platform. The first point is really for us to ensure at all times that our mics are muted, video camera switched off until you are recognized by the chairperson. In that case, you'll then proceed to unmute your mic and switch on your video camera. In a situation where you experience connectivity challenges, you would indicate that for the permission of the chairperson to switch off your video camera so that you are able to maximize your bandwidth. This would also apply in situations where people lose connectivity and have to reconnect on the platform, that you ensure at all times as you reconnect that your video camera is switched off and your mic is muted, as mics are sensitive and therefore could pick up background sounds which may distract the speaker that may be on the platform at the time that is joining the meeting. Whilst point of orders are allowed in terms of the rules, you are also expected to raise your hand on the gadget with your mic still muted and your video camera off for recognition by the chairperson, who will also be assisted by the committee support in case I'm unable to see the hand that's raised on the platform. Once the chair is recognized, the member will then proceed to unmute your mic and switch on your video camera and proceed to raise the point of order on which the chairperson could rule upon. With that having been said, honorable members, we're also guided not to raise unnecessary point of orders that may collapse the meeting on this platform. We'll now therefore proceed. Let's go to the agenda of the meeting. As honorable members would remember, this is a subcommittee which must report to the committee. And for the scheduling is as you'd see it, and therefore at 14 hours, that's then that would have the committee to allow the administration to prepare a report of this subcommittee to the actual committee. I thought in the opening, honorable members, I should just help to recap quickly so that the meeting is not everywhere and that we can be focused on the matters before us, and in that way make a proper recommendation or decision on the matter. You'd remember that we had met, agreed that we have a matter that has been referred in terms of the ATC to the committee. Having done so, would have debated the matter. However, there were two opinions on the table. The one that advised us up until the decision that was made in the House, and the one that would have come thereafter, which made an alteration to that decision of the House. And for purposes of the integrity of process of Parliament, and not for today, but for the future, we needed to be sure of what we do, because Parliament itself is a creature of statute and therefore governed by laws, just like it would be the case in terms of the other branches of the state. So we had to get the independent legal opinion with an understanding that it will either affirm or deny what has been before us. So that as we tackle that is referred to us, we are also clearer in terms of the law, that we are acting within the law. So that's very important to capture that as just the opening remarks. And this would have been the ruling made previously, that we get the legal opinion. We now have the legal opinion, which opinion I would have asked as it was received last night, that we ensure that it's circulated to members, but secondly, it also gets presented to the members, both in the subcommittee and in the committee where that is necessary. So in that score, we would have such a presentation. Of course, honorable members, you'd remember that we are also meeting at a time when this committee of communications and digital technologies as a committee, not just the subcommittee, as part of our oversight work, we have also been to one of the entities that report to this portfolio, this being the SABC, and we have engaged different stakeholders. And what could have come out, I think, as very important, is this understanding that the matter must be dealt with, as the governance structure has been absent for some time. And there are matters that really need the governance structure for the SABC to be able to proceed and do its work. So as we consider every matter that's before us, we have to take also that into account so that we do not postpone unnecessarily so, but deal with the matters as they are presented before us and take the decision either way. So we are convened with that background, also very important. So these are the 2 points I thought I should deal with in the beginning, so as to guide the meeting, that we get to be focused. We have a letter from the president. We needed an opinion. We now have the opinion. The approach we are going to take, honorable members, is that we'll invite the legal services to briefly make the intro. This is so because the committee itself does not procure services of senior counsel, even though it would have made that request. And they'll be able to say also the readiness, if the senior counsel is on board, take the committee through. But because I do not want it to look like a rush, because the decision I'm making is very important. But I would want to clear the time part of it, that to assist members, because they have received this overnight, and others may have seen the opinion probably early hours of the morning and so on, that we allow at least 40 minutes on the presentation. I will then make some points on guidance in terms of how we then handle it post the presentation, so that we can be also businesslike in the way we deal with the matter. So I thought I should make that clear, so that it's also understood that even when there would have been a delay in what we thought could be possible to come back on the 18th of March, it would have been a point of other processes, including supply chain, that needed to be followed, because as we try and do the right thing in getting the independent opinion, we also need not to flout the laws that have been put in place as it relates to procuring such services. But as I said, we now have it, and I would look if the legal department, if I'm not mistaken, I did see that we have both Ms. Advocate Jenkins and Mr. Tejani, unless I'm leaving any other person from legal. And as I said, you'll probably be the ones who would then introduce the matter. But I take it that members agree that for purposes of thoroughness, would at least give 40 minutes presentation and thereafter get to guide the discussions. Mr. Tejana and Advocate Jenkins.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, honourable members, colleagues, and media. Chairperson, my colleague Andile Chechana was really responsible for procuring this opinion. I see he's on the platform. I'm going to give him if it's in order with you, Chair, to give him the opportunity to present the opinion. And then I can help with taking some questions, Chairperson. Thank you very much, if that's in order.
Mr. Tejana, can we be guided by you?
Can you hear me, Chair? Good morning, Chair.
Yes, we can hear
you. Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, Chair. Chair, if you don't mind, I see that there's a lot of papers around me. If you don't mind, because you've already seen me, would you mind if I switch the camera off?
Permission granted. At least we have seen you. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and honourable members, and good morning to my colleagues as well. I'm not going to waste your time, Chair. I'm going to cut to the chase. If you look at this opinion, I think the Chairperson has already given us the background to it. So I won't deal extensively with the periodization and the correspondence that has been toing and froing between the relevant parties. Safe to say, Chair, that this opinion deals primarily with 3 specific questions which Council was requested to respond to. The first question, Chair, being whether the resolution of the National Assembly of 6 December 2022 on the candidates for the board of the SABC is legally executable or valid. The second question, Chair, being the legal status of the President's request of 9 March 2023 to the Speaker to refer the matter of the recommended candidates back to the committee for consideration. And the last point, Chair, being in light of the President's referral, is the National Assembly empowered to reconsider its decision and advice to the President against the backdrop of the withdrawal of one of the candidates? Chairperson, we will start with the first question. The opinion, Chair, in a nutshell, says that the resolution of the NA of 6 December 2022 is legally sound as it currently stands. It's legally executable and is valid. And that is based on the fact that, Chair, if you look at the fiat of the statute, if you look at Section 13, Chair, Section 13.1 says the 12 non-executive members of the board must, and that's preemptive, Chair, be appointed by the President on the advice of the National Assembly. Now, Chair, the opinion goes to an extent of quoting a case which was before the Supreme Court of Appeal, and the case is Endumeni, Chair, regarding how legal instruments are being interpreted. And it of course says that there are three criteria that are being used: ordinary meaning, contextual meaning, and of course the purposive interpretation. Now, what counsel is saying, Chair, and of course counsel will be here, will join us at 11:15, is that if you look at the wording of the statute is it directs the President. It does not say, it does not limit, it's not prescriptive on the nature or form that the NA must follow in terms of giving the President, in terms of recommending to the President the non-executive members. So what the opinion is saying, Chair, is that if you look at the resolution as it currently stands, the resolution is specific that these are the 12 members which the President must appoint from. But it then goes beyond and says that in the event of any eventuality that one of these or two are not available at the time when the appointments are made, then it says that there's a reserve pool, and of course it then speaks to issues of whether that is a legitimate governmental purpose. Now, Chairperson, you will agree with the fact that if you look at the reserve pool which the committee has provided to the President, that reserve pool, Chair, has been provided for a specific purpose. So the fact of the matter, Chair, is that if you look at whether the National Assembly has provided the President with the 12 names, I mean, the answer, Chair, is in the affirmative. The President has been given the 12 names, but then, of course, those who are in the reserve pool, Chair, cannot even argue that they have a legitimate purpose to be appointed to the board, because the resolution is very clear that the President can only go to the reserve pool, Chairperson, if one or two of the 12 are not available for whatever reason. I don't think, Chair, I must labor that point. The second point, Chair, relates to the legal status of the President's request of 9 March 2023 to the Speaker to refer the matter of the recommended candidates back to the committee for consideration. Chairperson, I think you will agree with me, firstly, that there's no parliament that is led by Honorable Maneli and another parliament that is led by the Honorable Speaker. I think we've got one parliament, and the head of that parliament, of course, is the Speaker. Now, if you've been watching the interaction, Chair, between the President and the Speaker's office, if you look at both the stated and unstated premise of the letter of the 9th, the letter of the 9th month, Chair, says, if I look at what the Chair has told me and what you've told me, it seems as if there are contradictions, and therefore the President is saying, I'm confused. This matter must go back to the committee. Now, this opinion, Chair, if I may deal firstly with the stated premise of the opinion, this opinion, Chair, says the President has no legal basis whatsoever to prescribe to the National Assembly on how the National Assembly must conduct its business. Not only that, Chair, it speaks about the trias politica doctrine, which is the doctrine of separation of powers. You will recall, Chairperson, that we've constantly made this point, that you've got three branches of the state. You've got the judiciary, led by the Chief Justice, Parliament as the legislature, led by the Speaker. You've got the executive, led by the President. Now, Chair, if you look at section 92(2) of the Constitution, it's a pity the Constitution is not in front of me, but I know what it says. It says that, Chair, members of the cabinet are collectively and individually accountable to Parliament. So if you talk about cabinet, Chair, that includes the president, because the president is the head of the executive. Now, Chair, you can't have a situation, Chair, where Parliament accounts to the president. If you look at the rigorous canons of the Constitution, Chair, and I'm now dealing with the unstated premise, Chair, of the opinion. If you look at the rigorous canons of the Constitution, Chair, there is only one provision in the Constitution, Chair, which allows the president to second guess the will of Parliament, and that is section 79. And that only relates to assent to bills. If, for instance, a bill is sent to the president for assent and the president has got reservations, the president looks at the bill, sends it to Parliament for reconsideration. If Parliament insists that he has to assent to it, his powers are very circumscribed and limited in the sense that he must either assent. If he does not assent, he must refer the bill to the Constitutional Court for constitutionality. The president, Chair, is enjoined by the Constitution not to defy or second guess the will of the people. Parliament, Chair, in its wisdom, constitutes the will of the people. The president is constitutionally bound, Chair, to appoint as per the resolution of the National Assembly. If the president, Chair, for whatever reason, feels that what Parliament direct him to do is unlawful, the president, Chair, has got one option. He has to approach the competent court, Chair. The president, Chair, cannot take the law to his hands. Our Constitution is not self-executing. The president cannot adopt a self-help constitutional style. Our constitutional scheme doesn't allow it. So the letter by the president dated the 9th of March 2023 is not only unprecedented, Chair, but it is grossly unlawful. Chair, I'm not going to belabor that point. I think the point has been sufficiently made. Now, the last point, Chair, is in light of the president's referral, is the NA empowered to reconsider his decision and advise to the president against the backdrop of the withdrawal of one of the candidates? I think, Chair, we've already dealt with the fact that the opinion, in not so many ways, says that the letter of the 9th March 2023, Chair, has got no basis in law. And of course, the opinion refers, Chair, to the principle of legality, which provides in the earlier that in relation to the president, Chair, this instance, the president may exercise no power and perform no function beyond that conferred on him by law. The president must tell Parliament, Chair, where is he taking this power to instruct Parliament on how Parliament must conduct its business? Lastly, Chair, you will see that the opinion says Parliament is not restricted in view of the fact that Dr. Kruger has written to Parliament to say that he is now withdrawing. The president must appoint from the Reserve Board. In other words, the opinion speaks about replacing the member who was part of the 12 selected with one of the members in the Reserve Pool. Chairperson, I don't want to waste your time. We will deal with the unstated premise of the opinion as we interact with the honorable members. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Tejana. I will now invite honorable members who would want to speak now that the opinion has been presented. So if I do not see your hand, you would indicate. So I'm trying to check from the gadget side, and I will also be assisted by the committee support. I note that we have Honorable Mlala. We have the Honorable Kolaban. We have got the Honorable Machuzi. We've got the Honorable Klago in that order.
Thanks, Chair. I think now that we have the independent opinion, I don't think there's a need for further indulgence on the matter. I think we should just straight go to what the opinion says and agree as a subcommittee, because this opinion has been requested by us. And let's agree that we proceed to take the matter back to the office of the president for finalization. I don't think there's a need for us to further indulge on the modalities. I think we are all clear that the matter should be referred as the resolution is stating. The 12 recommended, obviously, it will -1 who has resigned, and therefore the president will have an option on the reserve list and finalize this matter speedily, as the SABC now is in dire need of a board. So with those words, I don't think there's any further ado from our side. We fully appreciate and agree with the opinion. I don't think the opinion is quite clear. There's many further questions from my side. So thanks, Chair. I think that's the input from myself.
The Honorable Kolabanat, recognized.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, thank you. I agree with my colleague. I think this must go immediately now. I'm very pleased that this final legal opinion highlights the fact that we ran the entire process by the book. There were no missteps and nothing was done outside the law. It's a great pity the president didn't take such advice before the step that caused this enormous delay. Now, indeed, let us write to the president today and insist that the board is declared immediately. It's only 5 months they've been without a board. And the terms of the executive 3 are about to end. So the board has to now appoint a new team, and that will be now a rush process that they'll have to go through. And it just was a great sadness to me that the former minister and others introduced at a very late stage what now seem to be in frivolous points, which added to the delay. And just a question I have, which would be a legal matter, I think would be best dealt with by the legal team. We chose the members, we ranked them all the way down, and that top 12 are the names we put in, which means the next 3 were also ranked. Does the president have to go with the next person ranked on the list to replace, is it Professor Kruger, Mr. Kruger, Dr. Kruger, or is that now an option of any of those 3? That's just something that I wanted clarified. I must say I was quite shocked to hear our legal advisor use the phrase that the letter from the president was grossly unlawful. And the question has to be asked, who on earth has been advising the president? Because by stopping this entire process the way it was, as he says, is grossly unlawful. So it should never have arisen. This entire issue should never have arisen. Thank you, Chair.
The Honorable Machozo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to all honorable members, and also Mr. Tekian. Yes. No, we appreciate the legal advice that we are receiving now, and I think I will concur with my colleagues who have spoken, Honorable Mulala and Honorable Kola Panat. I think now the ball is in the President's court that he must then appoint the SABC board members that should be appointed is no longer with the committee, because we had received the legal advice all the time with the processes, so we're fine. I agree with other honorable members that let us write to the President that we have done everything that we were supposed to do. Now it's upon him that he must appoint the board members of the SABC, and it's no longer with the committee, because we do not want to entertain things that will then put us in a negative state. So I do agree with the other honorable members that let us submit, and let us be clear on the letter that it has been 5 months already that SABC has not had a board, and we can't be depriving a country that should be receiving services and a SABC that should be implementing the strategy and is deprived of that because of there is no appointment of the board. But I agree, let us just send back to the President. Thanks, Chair.
The Honorable Pambo.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I think we must, like the previous speakers, welcome the legal opinion as it were, and I think it was quite extensive and insightful. It made most of the arguments that we were making, some of us in the committee, more crystal clear. But I think also what is to be noted, as the second last speaker said, that, you know, what is also to take away from the opinion is that there was, you know, the president's intervention or the president's request was grossly unlawful, and I think that must be noted. That, you know, the separation of powers in this regard were blurred, and more than blurring of the separation of powers is that the power of Parliament was trampled on, and that the president then became the one that Parliament reports to, not the other way around. And that must be noted. And the question asked by the member here is very important. Who is advising this president? Because something of this nature, as we advised, did not need Parliament to spend any cent to make sense of this kind of a situation, which was inflicted by the president. This confusion that was, used for this situation that we find ourselves in. So I think we must be cautious as a committee. It's a committee that we all, even as opposition parties, have celebrated to have been a committee that uses reason, that always took time to think through issues and never used party lines. And again, as much as it may sound petty and late to say, but it must be noted that at this moment in time, we found ourselves, arriving here precisely because people fell back into party political lines as opposed to the interest of the country. We are here, not 5 months later. I think it's over 5 months now. We're running to 7 months of not having a board, and this is not because we failed in other, we failed as a committee, but precisely because, there was mingling and there was a meddling or muddying of the waters by the president. And this must be said, and this must go out to the public, that it is not this committee that delayed, it is not this committee that caused the problem, and we are exonerated by this opinion. Because what it looks like to the public is that we are not doing our job and that we are failing to appoint or to recommend names. whereas it is the president who has created this crisis, who has created this confusion, which makes us to not have a board. As the functions of the SABC, can you imagine how much money is being lost? If there was money lost when there was a board, how much more money is being lost in the absence of a board? So I think we are really to push the blame where it matters. It is not about us, but it must be clear that we were not the cause of the problem. And I think finally that sanity has prevailed on all of us in this committee. I think that must be welcome. So going forward, Chair, I think let us resume to the previous spirit which we all engaged in, which was more on superior logic and speaking honestly and openly for the interest of South Africans in the continent at large. Thank you very much, Chair.
The Honorable Klego, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair. Allow me, Chair, to have my video off because of the weak connection on my side.
Permission
Am I
granted,
allowed, Chair?
Remember.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone in the meeting, Chairperson. Chairperson, I understand the background of the meeting, but I want to put it to the meeting that there is totally nothing wrong for the president to seek clarity from the National Assembly, because the concern was clear. The concern was asking about the 3 additional names on top of the 12 that was put forward by this committee. That's why I'm saying there is nothing wrong in clarity seeking, because the concern that was brought back to the National Assembly by the president was seeking clarity on the 3 additional names. The president was not taking any responsibility of Parliament nor that of the committee, but the president was seeking clarity on the 3 additional names that were termed as a pool by this committee. I am also joining my other colleagues, Chair, to say let's welcome the legal opinion. It's good to be sure, Chair. When we talk of things like this one, it's good to be sure. Let me also appreciate the work of the committee to have a pool, because that would mean something else now. Because if we only recommended the 12, now that there is a resignation, it means we are not going back as a committee to have other interviews because there is a pool already. I think let's do what we are supposed to do, to say we've got this legal opinion, we accept the legal opinion, we appreciate whatever exercise that has been taken. Work must continue. We need an SABC board as early as yesterday, all of us as the subcommittee. That's why on the 12th, we also had 3 additional names. Chair, I think I wanted to submit that now that our work has been clarified, finished, let's go back to the committee and report on our assignment. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members, for your contributions. You can then lower your hands so that I do not make the mistake that you are doing other follow-ups. So as you do that, I think there's only one question that would have been asked. Otherwise, others were comments in support of the opinion. I'm sure legal would want to speak to that so that I don't just summarize it. On the 3 names, the prioritization, just to remind.
Chairperson,
Yes.
if I may, I have expressed my view last time when we had a meeting, Chairperson. The 3 names, I think My advice would be to rank them, Chairperson. The reason I would say that, Chair, and for the committee is, and I would like my colleague, Mr. Chechana, to come in here, because we're going beyond what the written opinion from senior counsel is saying now. I would say the committee would be best advised to rank them so that there's no discretion for the president when he selects, when he appoints the 12 names. And that was because the president does not have a discretion, and that's said in the opinion as well. So let's not give him a discretion where he must say, which one of the three must I take? Nowhere do I have the right to pick and choose. So I would say let's rank them, those to say that they are in the rank of preference of the committee 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Techana, as I give to you, just to reaffirm the point, Honorable Kolapanat asked this question on the basis that the committee had already made that decision as it's sent to the assembly. It says in this particular order. So the question was whether then there could be a change on that or not, as you respond. Honorable Kolapanat, before I go to Mr. Techana.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You actually just took the words out of my mouth. As I had said, we very carefully ranked everybody, and the 12 that went through were the top 12, and the next 3 were the next 12. So the list is already ranked. Perhaps that simply has to be clarified, but to the president, but it's already been done. And I just want to congratulate our legal advisor for being spot on with his advice throughout. You've been totally exonerated from various criticisms that were flying around. Thank you very much.
Mr. Techana.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my point is simple. We will have to be guided by the wording of the resolution. Remember, Chair, the resolution has not been rescinded, and the resolution has not been withdrawn. So in other words, if the resolution ranks them, Chair, that's how it should be done. In other words, the president cannot take number 3 instead of taking number 1. So if they are ranked already, Chair, that's how the appointment should take place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, having listened to yourselves, I think it's important for also the functioning of this committee, as we are still going to deal with other matters that come before the committee. You'd remember that we also had disagreements about getting a legal opinion, but finally agreed that this is the position of the subcommittee. Hence, we have it before us. I'm raising this point so that it's understood that the matter of the legal opinion necessarily had nothing to do with party politics. But we needed to be sure that if you have gone through a process, the integrity of that process becomes very important. And if it's the question later on that you may have engaged in an unlawful activity, that also comes to your person, as you would have been the custodian of these laws that we make as the legislature. In this case, the Broadcasting Act would have been the guiding principle and the guiding law in that regard. And this is necessitated, if you go to that letter, by 2 letters coming from Parliament, one of the 20th and the one in March. And the one of the 20th was the process went through and the resolution of the House. And therefore, to take that resolution of the House and say you'll ignore it creates a situation where you have 2 matters that are before the same appointing authority. And this legal opinion clarifies the point. There's nothing unlawful about it. It reaffirms the point we have made when we're responding to this query before, that necessarily it is the president that is instructed to look at the 12 names. But necessarily Parliament, there's nothing explicit in that regard. And this has reaffirmed that. And of course, the rationality question, even though in the opinion they also use pragmatic approach by Parliament, has been informed by history in terms of how we have gone through this process, including delays that are really beyond the control of this committee. And it would have meant that the committee has not learned anything if it does not preempt those eventualities that we thought of that may affect the process at the time where we are in. But more importantly, with the interest of stabilizing the SABC. So I think we shouldn't take that away, that confusion itself then meant that you either have 12 or you have the 15. And that there's that says, consider these three in case of any eventuality, but there's also a communication which is also on the strength of legal advice that ignore the three. And from the opinion, it's now quite clear that you can't ignore the three. That's part of the advice of Parliament. And I think we should take it along those lines. And the decision of the committee is quite clear. We affirm the legal opinion. And that as we get to the committee, it will be to agree that we write back to the speaker and indicate that from where the committee is, it accepts the legal opinion, which therefore says that the resolution of the House still stands and that the president must be moving quicker in ensuring that there's stability in the SABC. In the context I've given, honorable members, at least some of you were there when we were engaging the entity as well as the unions and so on. Quite common was the instability that this absence of a governance structure creates. And the reality we must also deal with is that Parliament, in terms of its program, it is in the constituency period, which we must also serve and report even on these matters we're dealing with back to our constituencies in that regard. So I think we should take it, in my view, in that spirit, more than the party politics. Because if we would have accepted that the process we followed to the National Assembly was unlawful, as it would have been another opinion later on, then it can question all other processes we've tried to follow. But I think getting an affirmation that there's nothing wrong, we have followed it to the T, I think we should be happy with that outcome. So I don't want us to reopen such a discussion, and I take it that as the subcommittee, as we get to the next level of the committee, would be able to justify the recommendation we're putting before the committee, so that by end of business today, the chairperson is able to write back on your behalf that this is how the committee would have resolved. With that, honorable members, I want to thank you for availing yourselves in the busy constituency period you have. A number of you may be traveling, but please make sure that you are still present in the committee meeting, because the final recommendation is going to be taken by the committee. The meeting stays adjourned till we meet in the committee itself. We thank you, Liga. We hope to see you again there.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members.